Yo, what's going on, guys? DMP back with another recap. Today we're going to talk about the two trades I took January 16th, Friday. So let's get straight into it. So I'm going to start off here on the higher time frame. I won't be scaling to the 4 hour or higher. There was just nothing on those time frames of significance, so we're just going to cut right to the chase. So here, starting on the hourly time frame, let's talk about what I saw in the pre-market. So this is your 9 a.m. candle. So this candle was not here when I was looking in the pre-market, but these candles were. So what I see in the pre-market is basically that we had this huge 1 hour imbalance right here, which was originally bearish. And we can see that we eventually close above and we now inverse this gap. So originally coming into the market, I did want to be bullish. I wanted to see, these buy side levels leading into previous day high. Now, once I started kind of seeing us get weak and start to grind lower, I'm a little less convinced that price wants to go higher, because ideally, if this inverse is going to send us, we should just see continuation in price trending towards these highs. So coming down to the 15-minute time frame, I noticed, for one, in the pre-market, we did have an SMT with London high, meaning that ES failed to take the high and NQ swept the high. So we had a divergence there. So that was like my first bearish confirmation pre-market. And then we'll come into the open here. We didn't really have anything else pre-market besides what I mentioned. We did have SMT at Asia lows, which are these lows here with ES, and we had a slight internal SMT here as well. But I'll kind of explain why I anticipated for NQ to move lower just based on what I was seeing up here. So let's get straight into it. So as you can see on the 15-minute here, we did have a 15-minute inversion in the pre-market, which would have led some traders to think that we are going to, open up and rip higher for these draws. Now, I usually just don't take this 15. What I want to see is, do we have continuation off of this? The other reason I didn't view this 15-minute as valid is because with the inversion, we also took out the draw on liquidity, or, this minor buy side level here. And usually, an inverse, you want to see inverse and leave, draws on liquidity available above it. So I didn't really like that, and I wanted to see more confirmation if we were going to go higher. So let's scale down to our lower time frame here. So on the 5-minute here, we can see that we come up here at 9:30 and we put in this wick. Now you can see I have a devil's mark / VI marked out, which stands for volume imbalance. And that volume imbalance is here on this 15-minute leg. And basically what a volume imbalance is just going to be a gap between the bodies of two candles. So you can see here that I have marked out, there's a small gap in between these candles, which can act like an imbalance of sorts. Now, I typically don't use volume imbalances in my trading, but usually you don't really see them pop up on the higher time frames all too often. So I was curious to see what the market wanted to do from this level. So going down to the 1-minute time frame, we can see here, this is where we come up into that volume imbalance and make our SMT with the pre-market highs. And now I'm starting to see heaviness out of price. So I had this bullish 1-minute gap marked out from pre-market, a very small gap. And as you can see here off 9:30, this gap got tapped into. We got a nice reaction. And I didn't take this simply just because I wasn't convinced in the draw higher due to this SMT, and also due to us tapping into this volume imbalance. So I sat out of that long, and I actually wanted to see, stronger confirmation, meaning maybe we trade above these highs strong, and I would just look to target previous day high, find some kind of continuation above this high here, but we didn't get that. So now I'm more so convinced in short. We can see we come back down into this 1 minute, hold it again, but at this point here, we're kind of chopping. So now I'm just sitting on my hands and waiting. Now, what I want to see if we're going to go lower is, let's flip this 1-minute gap. We can see we held it on 2 retraces. So now I want to see, okay, maybe we'll flip this gap, and, maybe we'll come down to this pre-market low and to this London low I've marked out as well. So I didn't take my entry off of the inverse just because I didn't really like the wick we left on the closure. I would have rather seen a much stronger close. So I just waited to see if we got some form of a retrace or a better setup that I liked. And we got this 1-minute bearish gap to form right here, wicked into it right here on the 9:43 candle. And on the 9:44 candle displacement, I went ahead and took entry at around 8:28. As you can see, I have the execution here. And I was basically holding for this London low down here. Now, originally I was going to go break even at this internal low here. But once I saw us come down, put in this internal low, retrace up, start coming down again, I decided to go break even off a sweep of this low. Now you can see this candle ended up sweeping this low and my original break even spot. So I went ahead and went break even. And then this 950 candle here ended up wicking up and breaking me even out of this trade. which as you can see ended up running out all the draws and liquidity. So that was a little bit frustrating. And now at this point here, I'm looking to see, does the market want to reverse from here, or are we going to use these lows as a sweep to then reverse higher? Keep in mind at this point, ES has SMTs all the way down to this level at Asia. So we could very well reverse. So now I'm wanting to see, are we going to run liquidity, meaning are we going to flush it and continue into the draws, or are we going to start stalling to reverse? So once I start to see that price is, still heavy, drawing towards sell side on Asia, we have the new day opening gap and also these PM lows. I'm looking for some form of a retrace and some kind of an entry to, take down to these PM lows. So the next entry that I took was here. And basically what I saw was we had a 5-minute gap. This was our first retrace, and I'm not anticipating for this gap up here to get tapped into because it should be a breakaway gap. As you can see, the third candle is super, heavy displacement. We have about 60 points of displacement. So I don't want to see us retrace all the way up here if this is the drawn liquidity. So now this 5-minute is my condition in the market. So what am I wanting to see out of this 5-minute? Well, I want to see some form of, lower time frame confirmation that aligns with this drawn liquidity. So coming down to the 1-minute, this is a bit of an interesting entry here, and we'll talk about it and get into it. So as we can see here, we had this 1-minute gap. As you can see, originally got inversed up out of this new day opening gap to go higher. And I'm sure some traders may have took a jab at this, but the reality is that there's really no targets higher for us to go to. We are still, completely bearish in this price leg, right? So when we're seeing these moves up, we want to anticipate them as a retrace rather than us, forming a reversal. So I wasn't convinced that this gap was going to send us higher, which is of course why I didn't long it. And instead I wanted to see us, retrace for lower. So we can see we come into this 5-minute gap here, tap into 50% of that, which is just called consequent encroachment and typically is a level we want to see hold if we are going to continue the move. And basically what I wanted to see was us close back through this originally, inversed gap. So I wanted to see us reclaim this gap. And I usually just call this a reclaimed gap, meaning that we flipped it and turned it bullish, but now flipping back down below it flips it bearish out of this 5-minute. So this is where I took my entry right here at 733 and put my stop just at the internal high inside the 5-minute. This should now be a protected high if we are looking to draw towards, this internal low and, these other sell side levels here. These black levels were just internal levels on like the 5-minute time frame. I just wanted to monitor how price would react as we tap these levels. And as you can see, as we run these levels, I'm more confident that this is going to be the drawn liquidity. So took entry here and, had a slight bit of drawdown. So we ultimately ended up holding this reclaim gap and then getting good displacement off of it. I went break even here at this internal low, as you can see that I have marked out. And we did get a slight move up close to my break even, which was like somewhere around this area here. But it's either break even or TP on these kind of trades. So I held my break even, and you can see here we ended up displacing clean through the drawn liquidity. And we ended up taking about 3.3K across 150K combines. So I'm looking to have these combines pass ideally sometime next week. This month has been pretty hard to trade, but today we got pretty good price action and I played it pretty patient. Got this break even here, waited for confirmation in order to take a re-entry, got my re-entry and, was paid for it. So that's basically how I went about the market today. It wasn't too hard to read. I know, a lot of people would have got stuck up here with the 15. And with inverses, keep in mind, when we close an inverse, when we take out, the area that you may look to go break even, it's more than likely, not going to be much of a valid inverse to take. And ideally with this 15 here today, you would have wanted to wait for, expansion and some form of continuation to go up to previous day high if we were going to be bullish. Otherwise, I would have been looking for us to come back down through lows, which you can see we just had a very huge dump through all the lows. So yeah, not too bad. But I could definitely see how you can get caught on the wrong side today. So I'm hoping that this video kind of helps you guys, clear that up. Another thing that I want to point out as well is that we made, this 5-minute CISD. You can see this leg came up here, swept out the high. We closed back below it, making our change in state of delivery here. So for anyone that trades, change in state of delivery, this would have been a nice limit order to have a stop at the swing high and to take, down the sell side. I personally don't trade that way anymore. I used to, but this wasn't bad. We also had a breaker right here aligned with it. So solid. So yeah, I mean, we got pretty good bearish confirmation today. And yeah, I mean, you just had to take some form of a retrace and continuation. This 5-minute was perfect. You very well could have, even waited for the 5-minute closure and taken something like that downwards into this sell side liquidity level. But yeah, it was a pretty solid day, pretty good way to end the week. But yeah, that's gonna be it for the recap. As always, if you guys have any content that you're wanting to see on the channel, be sure to drop it below in the comments. I'm trying to make as much educational content as I can for you guys to hopefully help you guys master your trading as much as you possibly can. Also be sure to drop a sub, drop a like. I'm new to this, so as many people that see it is as many people I can help. And as always, take it easy. Later.